Bucket Rider 510. Aha! He's so funny when he does that. Makes me laugh every time. Woo! So here's the topic for you. Have you ever dropped your bike? You know it happens to everybody. If it hasn't happened yet, it will. Let me tell you about the first time I dropped my bike. So some of you may or may not know, the first bike I actually had was a Honda Shadow. It was I think a 96, and it was my brother-in-law's. He was selling it, and so I bought it. It was my first bike. I loved that bike. It was chain driven, so a little bit different than the shaft driven Honda Shadow Phantom that I'm on now, but oh, they run a couple of motorcycles. So anyway, oh, I see a donkey. Oh, I see two donkeys. Oh, I see a baby donkey. Oh my gosh, y'all. Donkey love. Sorry, I'm always distracted by donkeys. Donkey count for the day. 3. So getting back to my story. I was on an older Honda Shadow, and I knew that was just going to be my starter bike. I told my husband from the beginning, this is just my starter bike. So, you know, we looked for something different after about 6 to 8 months, I think. And then I bought this, the Honda Shadow Phantom that I'm on. But anyhow, the very first day that we bought the bike, of course, got it from the dealership, and we were over in Gainesville, and Gainesville traffic can be a little hairy, and it was a brand new bike. I didn't want to drop it, so my husband actually rode it home, 34 miles from the dealership to home, so it was the next day until I got to ride it. So we left the house and we drove to Chiefland, which is the next town over, and it's about 10 miles. So I was on it, I was feeling good, very comfortable. We had ridden some back roads to kind of get me used to it a little bit. We go over to Chiefland, he says, you know, we need to get gas. I said, okay. So we pull into the gas station. Mind you, this is a different bike that I'd been riding, so I was kind of unsure about how it turned. Hold up there, Chief. Thanks, dude. So I'm pulling up to the gas pumps at the gas station, and I just turned my handlebars too hard or something, and I was going slow, and I dumped it right there in front of the gas pumps. And of course I was like, oh shit. We had helmet communicators, so my husband's like, oh my god, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just pissed off because I was embarrassed. First thing I did was like jump up and like look around and see who saw me, like, oh my god. Of course there was one dude in the parking lot like looking at me like, holy crap. And it being a new bike and a heavier bike, I didn't know how to pick it up. So my husband had to come over there and pick it up for me, stand it back up. I looked it over, there wasn't a scratch on the thing. So I was happy about that at least, but so yeah, that was my first time dropping my bike. But wait, there's more. So a little while later, not the same day, probably, I don't know, a few months later, we had come back to the house and put our bikes up. And my husband's bike is right to the left of mine when I park. And I pulled up and I looked at where I was parked, and I'm thinking, I don't think I left him enough room. So I had put my kickstand down and put my kickstand back up to roll my bike backwards or whatever to try and give him a little bit more room. And not thinking about it, I went to get off the bike without putting my kickstand back down. And of course, as soon as it started falling, I tried to catch it, but I had a full tank of gas, I think, and I just couldn't stop it. Like my boot shifted and we went over and it pinned me in between my bike and his bike. So he was there. He's like, oh God. So he pulled the bike off of me, stood it back up. So that was the second time. I haven't dropped it since then, but I did wreck it. So y'all want to hear that story? Of course you do.